and then you kind of just block them off. Aerial, I will be doing something with the upper body and just kicking. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the most popular secret techniques of Kung Fu, Foshan Mo Ying Gerk, or Foshan Mo Ying Gerk! Hey guys, welcome to another Kung Fu Ronin video. It's a new type of video that I'm trying to do. It's more like a chat or a discussion video where I talk about certain Chinese Kung Fu concepts or ideas, be it traditional classical Kung Fu ideas like poems or phrases that Kung Fu people use that you don't necessarily see in books or read about, but you might hear about it if you live in the culture. It might also be certain ideas on techniques and movements in Kung Fu. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring together Asian and Western culture and also Asian cultural understanding of certain things or the phrases that we use mixed with a modern cultural understanding, and also maybe if it applies, I will also include sports science. So what I'm trying to do basically is try to make people understand and make sense of different interpretations of Chinese Kung Fu classic or classical ideas. And hopefully more people will enjoy this content. So today, I'm going to talk about one of the most popular secret techniques of Kung Fu, Foshan Mo Ying Gerk, or the foshan being the place, Mo Ying Gerk, Shadowless Kick. It was or is a technique that was made famous through Kung Fu movies, maybe in the 1940s in the Wong Fei-hung movies, and later in the 1990s, I think, with Jet Li, again with the Wong Fei-hung movies. So before I go into all the history and the technique and the ideas behind this secret deadly technique, I just want to say or summarize what I'm going to tell you. So as part of this chat, I'll talk about the history of the movement technique and where it came about. And then I'll talk about the ideas behind the naming of this technique. Because to understand the name, you will understand why this technique is called this name, and you realize that it's not actually a super secret move. And then I'll also talk about the different aspects of it that give you the ideas, or use a very Chinese understanding to describe Mo Ying Gerk in this video. Hopefully after this video, you'll understand that it's not a secret move, it's not a magic technique, and there are aspects of the name that imply a point where you want to reach with your techniques in which to apply them, which makes this technique very special. Okay, so this technique was made famous through the Wong Fei-hung stories. Historically, I've been doing a lot of research. I don't think that it was a famous technique before Wong Fei-hung. I'm not saying Wong Fei-hung coined the technique, as you'll know from, as you'll find out from later. I'm just saying before the movies came out, not many people talked about it. And is it a secret technique? Maybe, but you have to understand the context in which Mo Ying Gerk or shadowless means. But first, a bit of history. There isn't much of history that I could find, but the most common story that comes with Mo Ying Gerk is all based around Wong Fei-hung, the grandmaster of Hongga or Hongga Kung Fu in Canton or Guangzhou area of China back then. The story says that he may have fought a gentleman called Fei-hung. I'm using Cantonese because it was down in the south of China and where we and they use Cantonese. He was a master of butterfly palms, or another famous Southern style at the time, and apparently they had an exchange. And at some point during the exchange, you know how the story goes, Fei-hung did a flurry of punches and then managed to kick Wong Fei-hung once, and then it toppled him a bit. I'm not trying to say who won and who lost, it's just a story, but I'm just saying after this move, Wong Fei-hung respected this guy so much that he apparently traded Gong Ji Fu Kun and Ti Xin Kun, or the character Gong, tiger taming fist, and the iron wire form for this shadowless kick technique from this Song Sifu. And that's about all the history that I've found so far. Of course, there's the movie versions. You could go back to the movies, maybe I'll post a clip later. But what I'm trying to say now is this technique is based off the concept of shadow. Because if you don't understand how the Chinese interpret the word shadow, you won't understand the kick. So a lot of times when people talk about the shadowless kick, you see it in the movies. You see Jet Li flying through the air and doing a bicycle kick in the air and defeating multiple opponents at the same time. And this is a Foshan Mo Ying Gerk. But you have to understand what Mo Ying can possibly mean. Because, hey guys, thanks for watching. I want to remind everyone that I do have a Patreon. If you want to support me and my work, go take a look. I post videos that I don't post anywhere else, including lesson highlights straight from Hong Kong, early access to all my YouTube videos, and also the occasional instructional in the topics that I talk about. Because Chinese ideas are all based around not only the physical idea, but there's also a ideological entity. We call it yi ging or yi jing, or it's an imagery that you use. So a lot of times when you use Chinese kung fu phrasing or Chinese poetic phrasing, there's an intent or image you want in your head. And the intent of this move is shadow or shadowless. So how do Chinese people in the kung fu world use the word shadow? So it could mean a couple things. Foshan Mo Ying Gerk. Number one, it's speed. It's so fast that it leaves no shadow. So you just throw a kick, it's so fast it doesn't catch the light. It's an idea. It's a goal you want to aim at. You want to be so fast that the light doesn't catch you. We know that it's not possible, but Chinese kung fu likes to put the end point at a point where it's unreachable. So eventually you could always improve and try to improve yourself to get to that point. So part one is its speed. Part two is about not telegraphing, because another use of the word shadow, apart from it being so quick that you can't see it, is you can't catch its shadow. I remember when I was a kid, I was training with one of my my sifus, a monk sifu, and he taught me a bunch of stuff, including sanda, and I came up with this crazy technique, big, flowery, pretty technique, straight out of a dancing form. And I was just like, Sifu, look at this. I could try pull this off. And he looks at it and he goes, you could try, but the shadow is too big. And he uses the phrase shadow in terms of the telegraphing or how far you could see it. For example, if you're fighting, out of the corner of your eye, you could catch movement. And that's what Chinese kung fu people call shadow. It's whether or not you could catch its movement. And so this Mo Ying Gerk could be a fast kick, so fast that you can't see it. And two, a very efficient kick that you won't be able to catch as easily because it's got less telegraphing. And throughout history, there are different styles that use this too. But I will talk more about its technique in part 3. So the third idea is another way to make it so that you can't see it. You might have guessed it by now. It could be so fast that you can't see it. It could be so efficient and non-telegraphical that you can't see it. And number 3, you could be distracted, so you won't be able to see it. And by distracted, I mean like feints or distraction techniques. It could be an upper body technique that catches you and then you get kicked. Or it could be, oh, my cats are running around. It could be upper technique or fan in movies where you don't see the kick and then they kick you, so you can't catch its shadow. Or it could be a change of direction of energy, which is also what some people use, like in Qi Sao, Qi Ge, or even in the Mo Ga Ge in my Chou Mo Pai Kung Fu. I'll see if I can find a place to demonstrate these moves later. And also, there is another phrase that people use for Mo Ying Gerk. Some people say that maybe Fei-hung or some other people learned these techniques from a lady. They called it Quan Dai Ge. Quan Dai Ge means a kick that's under the skirt. So because there's a skirt that covers it, right? So you flap it around or it just covers your legs and you just kick. And that in itself is distraction and also a way to kick without being seen. That being said, back in the olden days, Chinese men wore kei-po, which was those long pieces of clothing with the flap. Legend says that you could flick the flap and then kick and also cause a Mo Ying Gerk. And so this is this is foshan mo ying gerk. These are the ideas behind foshan mo ying gerk. I don't know if it exists. It might. I could call it anything you want, because once you call something a name, people start thinking funny things about it. But if I start separating it into what I just told you, a technique with speed, a technique with no telegraphing, and then a technique with feinting and deception to create the best opportunity for a kick, then you understand the concept behind Foshan Mo Ying Gerk. I will hopefully do some demonstrations later. Okay, so hopefully I'll do some demos. As you can see, all my kicks have shadows, so it's almost impossible to have no shadow. Remember what I mentioned earlier on. It's either the speed that is so fast that it doesn't catch a shadow. Number two, it's the non-telegraphing, which is a key point that I'm going to show you later. And number three, it's the combination of feints or using upper body movements or other movements like flicking your skirt or keipo to distract the guy before you throw a kick. Another key aspect I wanted to mention was back in those times, at least the story goes, is people used to have tit-gyokgong. But tit-gyokgong means iron foot skill. But actually the shortcut to it was to put a steel toe to on the tip. And so they just have to kick like this. And that's why, at least these are legends more than, these are legends that a couple of my sifus have told me. For example, we used to train tit-dong-gong, which is iron crotch technique. And my sifu's always just like, oh, be careful if you meet a person with the iron foot. I'm like, iron foot? What is that? Oh, they slip an iron plate into their shoe, and then if they kick you there, you won't be able to take it. And then I'm just like, Sifu, I won't let anybody kick me there anyways. But anyways, and as such, some of these techniques are kind of weird because it's not like the modern kicks that we use. Some of them really just want to use the tip of their foot to just knock into the groin area or different parts of the foot. It's not like they wanted it to be fancy. Okay, so I don't kick so fast that there's no shadow. My hands don't even move so fast that there's no shadow, so we're gonna skip that. Yeah, so getting back to it, number one, I don't kick so fast that there's no shadow. You can see there's no shadow. That's impossible, at least for me. Maybe somebody else could do it. And number two, it is about the non-telegraphing. We all know the best mechanics was to use a lot of the body in different types of kicks. But there are old school traditional skills where you try to not telegraph. And one of the most basic ones is actually found in the basic tam toi movement. So you know how you get the tam toi and the kick? So the key aspect of this was to keep the shoulders still. For example, if I'm like this, and then I go, then you can see the kick coming, right? In a good scenario, I will be doing something with the upper body and just kicking. And remember, I'm supposed to have steel toes, or I'm so well trained that my kicks are super powerful. So it's not one of those whole body kicks that we're trying to go at. We're just trying to find an opportunity to just throw a kick. It's not the prettiest kick in the world. It's just something they do. So this is one of the concepts of it. For example, in Wing Chun, we have kicks where we try to keep the shoulder still while we kick. Because if we do something and then we just kick, they won't notice anything wrong with the upper body. You see, if I'm like, then you'll know, right? But of course, you could also use the upper body to feint to do your kicks if you want. But I'm not a kick expert, at least not anymore after I've torn my ACLs out 3 times. But so the non-telegraphing part in terms of the traditional Kung Fu ideas is to keep the shoulder still. A bunch of styles do this. The northern styles, including Tam Toi, and other styles do this. In Wing Chun, we keep the shoulders still, not because it's the best way to kick, but because it follows the theory that we want to do something with our upper body while we're doing something with the lower body. And then if you do this, you try to do something with the lower body that doesn't get telegraphed. So this is an idea. I'm not saying it's useful or it's useless. I'm just saying that's where it came from. Okay, and then part 3, a deflection or a distraction or a feint. Everybody knows like a jab to the eye and then a kick works really well. But in terms of traditional Kung Fu, there are actually a lot of ideas like this. For example, if we go back to Hong Ga or Hong Kun, that Wong Fei-hung made famous. If you see I don't do Hong Kun, I'm sorry, but in the eagle the tiger and crane form. There's a lot of upper body movements paired with a kick. So some would say that is the basis of some Mo Ying Gerk techniques. Also, there are upper body techniques where you use to combine with the lower body. For example, in Wing Chun, the last part of the dummy, where you strong talks out and then you do a kick. What you're doing is you're doing something here, and then suddenly you give him something, and then you kick. And then you could do a low kick or a high kick. Most of the time it's supposed to be a low kick. Most of the kicks were aimed here, to be honest. Back in the days when they were all pirates and burglars and self-defense people. But I also can't prove that, so don't ask me for proof. Another thing is, this technique is from Choi Mo Pai. Choi Mo Pai has a bunch of techniques, but its kicks are from Mo Ga Gerk. We used to call this Mai Tin Gerk. So what happens is when you're fighting somebody, right? And then you kind of just block them off, and then you just kind of soccer kick them in the balls. So you use an upper body technique to, you see this? To block their arm and then just go straight through. It could be a front kick too, but this is to train the hip. They call it Mai Tin Gerk, or the land selling kick, because after you use this kick, you have to sell your land and run away from your village. And what other Mo Ying Gerk things are there? Apart from using techniques, you could also switch power. If I get back to, say, Tai Chi, Wing Chun, or Choi Mo Pai, the southern styles, because Mo Ying Gerk was a southern idea, although it's still possible and it exists in northern styles, there are moves where you kind of clamp down, you push down on the person. Like if you're fighting, you push down so he resists up. And when he resists up, you kick. So boom, bam. So the traditional way was to clamp down and then it suddenly let go and then kick. But these are different strategies to make your kick less shadowy. Of course, these are very old school ideas. I'm just sharing them because people have told me. I'm not saying you could use them in an MMA fight or a street fight or anywhere. That's not where I'm going. I'm just saying these are where the ideas from the movies came from, and the movies' ideas came from popular Chinese martial arts things. So thanks for your support, and hope you like the video. Hey guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and follow my socials if you haven't already.